That is Mrs. Noah, or Dame Noah, from the Rufus and Margo Rose production of A Mouse in Noah's Ark. And you can see fire damage here when their studio burned. The interesting thing about that program, that show, was that it was done in a number of different scales. At this scale, the mice and the cats who were a part of the show were fairly normal marionette sizes. This marionette is 30 inches tall, which is a little taller than my parents normally made. But another scale was used in which my mother appeared on stage in the proscenium with some of the other larger scale animals. And my mother appeared, I think, from the bust down, as I recall. Another scale was used in a shadow puppet section of that play. The loading of the ark, in which all of the animals came to the ark, and I think the dinosaurs came and were turned down. My mother's ability as a sculptress was, I think, quite significant. As you can see in the hands and in the head, there's a good deal of character expression here. These hands possibly are arthritic. This show was produced, I can't tell you in what year, but it was produced at 24 Avery Lane in Waterford, Connecticut. And that studio was built, completed in 1943. So it's possible that this marionette was built in 1943 or 44. The Mouse in Noah's Ark, Dame Noah.
Do you want to talk a little bit more about the legs and how it's built, the legs are built?
Well, there's a material used here which is no longer on the commercial market. This is a quality of plastic wood. The formula has since been changed, but this is a material that my parents used considerably. It used to be available in 25-pound cans. Again, the feet reflect my mother's sculpture talent. There's a trunk fiber joint here in this ball and socket knee joint, and the same is true in the ankle. You can see a slot at the rear of the ankle and a pin. The pin passes through the trunk fiber, and the lower leg fits into the top of the foot as a ball into a socket, giving it freedom to rotate around that pin. There's an interesting effort here made to make this marionette as light as possible, and you can see that this leg, there's a portion of it missing because it was burned in the fire, but this leg, I believe, you can tell was hollow from this point to this point. And there was a wrapping around these stubs which enclosed that open space, and then plastic wood was used to finish out the conformation of the upper leg.
You want to talk about the fire a little bit?
I wasn't present. I didn't go back to the house after the fire for quite a long time. I was away. It had to have been a devastating experience for my parents to see so many of their marionettes either just totally destroyed or partially destroyed and soaked in water. The fire department had come, and I saw some photographs of my parents' puppets lying out on the driveway outside the studio shop, and it was hard to look at. I once asked my mother what she felt she and my dad had contributed most significantly to American puppetry. And there are a number of things she could have said, but what she did say was, we made good puppets. And of course they did. My own feeling about that is that they were excellent storytellers. my brother and I, both my brothers and I, benefited from their dramatic ability when it came to telling or reading stories to us as we prepared for bed at night. And those memories are very critical to me. And I think it reflects the joy that my parents had in telling stories. My dad was a great storyteller. Of course, he was a Yankee. And as it was a tradition, I think, among Yankee storytellers, you don't want to let unnecessary facts get in the way of a good story. So he was known as somewhat of an exaggerator. He was also a politician. Not that there's a big distinction to be made between exaggerators and politicians. But when he was introduced to my mother's parents, she asked her father, after Rufus had left the room, what they thought of him. And they thought well of him, but with the reservation that they thought he tended to exaggerate.
Your mom was from the Midwest, right?
My mother was raised in Storm Lake, Iowa. She had been born in Inwood, Iowa, and she and her two sisters were raised in Storm Lake, Iowa.